Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Ground Up Podcast, coming to you from the Elument Health Studio. Element, we are super thankful for your partnership, and I'm here today with my good buddy, Roy Mangrum.
You were doing your jazz voice again.
Oh yeah, I always do.
Okay.
I don't. It just feels right.
Didn't know that was a thing.
I've been sitting out here for a little while, so it feels like this place feels zen to me sometimes. So I can lower my tone. You know,
Sure.
They get the green grass, and we got Joe.
Should I get one of the books?
Yes. And I walked into
The studio.
Today we are here with Joe, Joe from Relentless Pursuit, and I don't know why for a hot second I
Joe
forgot
Adams.
Yeah, Adams. Thank you.
Come on.
Jesus.
I was like,
Terry,
I know you're.
I thought
Well,
we've known each other.
Jesus.
no, don't get
You've
offended.
been texting the wrong person.
I was just emailing with a Joe Fleener. Okay, so let's just calm down. No, Joe's here from Relentless Pursuit Podcast. So hey, Joe,
What is up, man?
how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
I'm doing pretty good. How's
Yeah.
your?
I've been on his podcast officially twice or three
I was gonna
times.
say hopefully not
There's
more
an
than me.
unofficial
Twice,
one
and
that
then one
never-
was unofficial, and
It never made.
yeah, he has
God,
all
it-
that.
it
He
went
deleted all
off
those
the
files,
rails.
I still want to hear that podcast.
I don't.
But
4 hours.
I'm not
of-
even going to bother asking for it. That line's been cut.
How many
after-
hours was that?
That was like a freaking 4-hour
We were
podcast.
so hammered.
I was hammered as hell.
After Dark, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, God, that was.
I need to go back to that, but do it differently.
Yeah.
You know?
maybe.
There was like people walking in and out of the room.
Yeah.
It was chaos.
There should be someone cutting off the alcohol at some point. We didn't have that, so it just got.
Oh man. Well, we're excited to talk with you about your podcast and your business today. We're going to do a little bit of a workshop. You've been kind enough to kind of come in here and be like, "Hey, here's what I'm working with. How can we make it better?"
Yeah, man.
So excited to do that with you, and I appreciate the opportunity. We consider that to be an honor.
Of course.
We love workshopping business, and we love helping our friends grow their brands. So
Yeah.
so excited about that. Before we say anything else, though, I want to thank Provida Gym in Germantown, NutriShop, and the Music City Fit Expo for sponsoring this podcast.
Yes.
Still waiting on that
May
check.
30th
Roy.
and 31st.
It'll get here
You will
eventually.
get it, let's see, May 30th, 31st, June 1st.
I'll get that check in June 1st. We'll talk about that later.
Or a bill. either
Do
one.
you want to give your expo plug? Go for it.
Hey, actually, I listened to the last one I did.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
It was pretty darn good. Yeah.
Pretty good on the fly. Music City Fit Expo, Nashville, Tennessee at the Nashville Fairgrounds, May 30th and 31st. Come out and see Jay Cutler, Brian Shaw, maybe Dana Lynn Bailey. And that's all happening May 30th and 31st. Hundreds of vendors will be there, and it's going to be 10 plus events: kickboxing, strongman, powerlifting, CrossFit, weightlifting,
We have a special.
group fitness, bodybuilding, you name it. There's probably going to be a slap contest between me and Terry at some point. And who knows what else you'll see. May 30th and 31st. Tickets are on sale now. VIP tickets are still remaining.
I really wanted to jump in there with the Bill Goodmans, like buy, sell, trade, but don't you dare miss it.
Yeah, you should there at the end.
You know, I will say for the Fit Expo, it's a pretty awesome experience. It was,
Thank you.
I loved it. Yeah. I mean, you invited me, you know, for a purpose, and I wish I would have taken that further. You know, I could have done so much better, but that was so far out of my shell. Like, I'm good at talking to people. Like, conversation is my thing.
Yeah.
But, like, putting myself out there in front of people in that way is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm very introverted, actually, most of the time. So I was like, oh, I mean, I had a public speaking event a couple months ago at MTSU, and I was, like, checking my pulse. I was like, oh, you know, and Lydia came and she was like, actually, you sound like you've done that plenty of times. And I was like, really?
Perfect.
Because I was nervous as shit.
And sometimes that's when you perform the best.
Yeah. Well,
right?
if you're not nervous about it, you don't, you know.
You don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You respect it, right? So, yeah, it's going to get you amped up.
Did you get video with some of the guys when you were there?
Yeah, I got some video. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Got some video, some
That's
audio,
awesome.
but I'm stepped it up with the camera game. You know, I got some Amazon gift cards, and I was like, yes, I can buy that thing now.
There you go.
And,
As a side note, now would be a good time to share some of that expo footage as well. We could three-way collab with him.
Yeah.
yeah, I got you.
We could do that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
We'll hook you up. Before we get too much further, let's get into business for a hot second. For the sake of the listeners, let's pretend like they don't know anything about you.
Okay.
So talk about the brand Relentless Pursuit and what its purpose is.
So essentially, it's birthed from a near-death motorcycle wreck. Back in 2018, riding my Harley through Murfreesboro after class, and just joyriding, enjoying the day, and got coming through a light. Had these big old ape hangers. I'm like, ah. And I looked to the left of me, and I'm not going to say it because but I saw this car, and I said. And then as soon as, like I said that, my brain shut off. We hit corner to corner. I fishtailed into the side, went to the windshield, got launched 90 feet, woke up in a field, saw my femur sticking out of my leg. I just remember the cop being like, "You're in a bad wreck." I'm sitting there like,
No shit. Yeah.
No shit. And next thing you know, they load me up on a life flight and give me a nice little ride to Vanderbilt. I don't know if you want me to keep this brief because I can get into all the details.
How long were you in Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
I was there for, between that and like the rehab facility is probably like 20-something days.
Jeez, dude.
I bounced back relatively quick, especially when I got there, but it was just like I think your mindset can speed the process up so much.
Yeah.
And like I was blessed with the ability, like as soon as I wake up, to be like grateful for the experience. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is meant to be. And I'm very blessed for that because that's not the case for a lot of people. But then when I woke up in Vanderbilt, I learned I had a TBI, I had aortic aneurysm, that was bleeding in my right lung, which was also collapsed.
Dang.
I lacerated 6 organs, so it was bleeding from those. Broke my few ribs, broke my hip in 3 places, left femur came out, right knee, tibia, fibula, both ankles crushed, both feet, all my toes. And then I got pierced in the groin about like an inch from my
To top it all off.
stuff. Yeah, I know. I was like, good thing I had like tight jeans on. It was cold out. You know what I'm saying? And I got
tweaking berries. We got it.
yeah, right. There. Thank God for those. And I got impaled by something. I don't know. I lost like a few pints of blood out of that hole, and so that's giving me nerve damage. I've had to fix, but it is what it is.
So, you're telling this story to say that you woke up in a different space with that, and that was you. The brand was birthed out of this experience.
Yeah. So when I had that, obviously I wake up and the surgeons are like, "You should be dead, dude," and I'm learning all these things that happen, and I'm like, "Holy crap! Like I really should be dead." And I was like, "This is meant to be, and this is my relentless pursuit," and that just fueled this fire. My mom hates it because I was like, it was meant to be. And she's like, no, it wasn't. You always had that within you. But everybody's got
what unlocks it.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody has the potential to do great things. Mm-hmm. We all do, but unfortunately a lot of people go through life and don't unlock that. Mm-hmm. And I think truly had that not happened, who knows if that would have been unlocked. So that said, that was the thing. That was the key right there.
Sure.
That just gave me that purpose to move forward in life and do something greater than myself. So, and then that's what it's been ever since. And I recently wrote, I got to throw this in because I had gained a lot of clarity lately. I've got a mentor and stuff like that. And, I was just expressing some stuff. I was like, dude, I'm just pissed off at this person. I'm so mad. I just want to hit him in the head. And he was like, that's secondary to is sadness. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, why do you feel that way? And I was like, man, it's just like nothing I do for this person is good enough. And he said, so you don't feel good enough? And I was like, well, yeah, it's something I dealt with for a long time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people relate to that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I sat on it and I was like, holy crap. Like, that's really the underlying theme of my brand. It started with that wreck, but this whole pursuit has been to be good enough. Mm-hmm. And it hit me so hard. I thought about going out to Appalachia. I went 6 weekends in a row to the freaking mountains, volunteer my time, bringing supplies. Over half of the time solo, and every time I come back, I'm like, it's not enough. It's not enough. And my wife's like, Joe, like, I love you and I support you. I know your heart. She's like, but also like, this is like become your identity, And I was like, but that right there was a perfect example. Not good enough, not good enough. And I had to like really understand that to like kind of bridge into the place I'm at now.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
So I don't know. So that's like kind of part of what Relentless Pursuit has been. So now it's understanding that you are enough, and just like pursuing the way forward the best way possible.
Yeah.
with a different mindset. So
Yeah. So the brand, I appreciate the context, and we need the context, and you have to forgive me a little bit for trying to. I want to push you through.
Yeah.
Not that story doesn't have a ton of weight, because every time I hear it, it still gives me chills. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you survived that.
So am I.
First and foremost.
Dang, and I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
But the Relentless Pursuit brand, we know what it embodies and where it's birthed from, but what is it?
So it's a layer of things. I started off with doing the apparel.
Yeah.
And was doing that, and that was a crazy thing recently I've come to understand too. So I've always understood the importance of team. I played team sports growing up. I was in the military. I had different brotherhoods, this and that. So I always embraced this team aspect. So fortunately, from Iraq, I had, some money come in. So I was able to spearhead that, get a team. Hey, I don't really know you, but you're on my team, build a connection. Here's the free stuff. I'll pay for some of these events. We're going to go set up at events, and we're going to get out there. Boom, boom, boom. Photo shoots, all the whole 9 yards. I remember people telling me dang, you just started and it looks so professional.
Yeah. I first met you and I was like, this guy's everywhere.
Killing it.
Yeah. And it's just I was able to do that. And then life happened, with in past relationship, lost my house, lost a ton of money, and I moved to Murfreesboro and got a little bit, and to touch on what you were saying, the apparel was the idea of pursuing greatness at all costs, hunting down the goal, taking that in, and then repeating the cycle throughout life. It's an eternal thing, right? It's an eternal work, and you just keep going, and not settling for anything less than that, essentially, right? And it's just a powerful message. It's just kind of like the fuel I had from recovering from that wreck. It was just like that. It's boom, 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 and just laying that out there, but building a community that embraced that mindset, that wanted more out of life. And, people are often like, oh, what's your niche of people? And I'm like, everybody's got the potential to do that. So that's just how I operate. I'm I want to impact all these people to be able to do that. And of course, being in the fitness world already, that was the main bread and butter. And I think that's a key part of it. But, and then long story short, life happened. I moved to Murfreesboro. I was in a really bad place mentally. And then of course, 6 months later, I met my wife, and that's been the best thing ever.
Right.
We started dating, but a couple months after that, I was like, you know what? Relentless Pursuit's just, the name holds that weight. And I said, just selling shirts out of my house and going to events just doesn't feel like I'm living it. So I was like, I got to put my back against the wall. Okay, let's get a building. Let's go all in. Let's move other people in. And then even that first 9 months, 10 months, it was just me, myself, 2 clients, because I didn't really know anybody in Murfreesboro. And I was like, oh, here goes all my savings. $5,000 overhead, 10, 20, 30,000, it's adding up. And I invested a lot into it, and I was like, shoot. And then that time frame, I learned I got a baby on the way. And but during that was, the podcast. And so that was the thing that I fell so in love with, because people were just coming in, and I was able to create a space where people were just to share their journeys and just be vulnerable.
Right.
And moving forward with that, it's just, I just published my 125th episode.
Crazy.
I got one coming out. I'm recording Sunday. I got one launching Sunday. I got 4 in the books next week that I'm recording with people. And I'm just keeping it rolling, and the growth has been there just last year, even with the IG cancellation. That was the beginning of the year, but I've had 180% growth on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Since then.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about that aspect of it. So I'm like, okay, cool, we got this. That's just an obstacle.
Yeah.
There's ways around it. And we just keep going. That's just life for you. And so now, obviously, combining that message with also this layer of just pure authenticity, storytelling. That's what people ask me what my podcast is or what I do. I'm like, storytelling. And to me, it's a beautiful thing. It's kind of a lost art, because you think about, just people sitting around the fire, just telling stories.
It is 100% a lost art.
Yeah. So to bring that from so many different types of people, I mean, we got younger fitness people to guys that are in their 60s that have, been through their kid being murdered and stuff like that, and finding forgiveness through that, and people that have tried to take their own life, people that have become pro athletes and their journey there. So just gathering all these people, and then throughout time, I'm like, man, but every one of these stories I hear, they impact me on such a level, but everybody connects. And that's the beautiful part too, is like now I've got this thing that's alive that shows everybody out there, if they listen, that they can connect with everyone in some way.
Right.
And that we're all in this crap together, you know, and that's the beauty of it. So that's the whole thing with the Relentless Pursuit, because every one of these people have been through their own form of a relentless pursuit to where they are now. It's this journey, right? And that's the thing to embrace. So that's like kind of how the message has shifted quite a bit.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think that's maybe that's a better medium than apparel. But so, just for the sake of laying the foundation, we know what you stand for. We understand what Relentless Pursuit was born out of, and what the mission statement is behind it.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's probably more well known than a lot of the brands around here.
Yeah.
In that sense, you do a good job of communicating that. So good work on that.
Thanks.
But the actual dollars and cents. So are you still doing the clothing line?
That's to come, you know. So like I said, things shifted. I put my back against the wall.
Yeah.
I did a couple more apparel orders, but apparel's expensive business, you know, especially when you're doing a big order. This could be 5, 10 grand, 12 grand, whatever. And you're like, oh, and I got to sell all this stuff. And, you know, like I talked about, I had this team. So here's like the ground. Well, I started here with the brand because I had the team and we're doing our thing. Well, then when I couldn't hook people up and do this and that, I had this expectation that they would have my back. And so when everything shifted and life happened, I landed flat on my back.
Yeah.
There was no hands out. And I was like, and it's not to say I don't have support, but you get what I'm saying from the team aspect. And I'm like, holy crap, man, this is I'm alone right now.
It's a hard lesson.
Yes, but it was necessary.
Yeah.
For sure, because this whole time, especially after the recent discoveries, has been about like me unlocking myself. That's why I've stripped it back to the essence. I'm making the brand super personal and just putting myself out there on a whole nother level. So, because to me, the key moving forward is that one day I want people to look at brands and they see RP and they're like, dude, that's the most authentic brand there is.
Yeah.
Because I want to do nothing but bleed authenticity. That's why I was willing to text you guys and just be vulnerable, because like, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what we're here for.
I'm over there doing my thing myself, but at the same time, I can't do it alone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, you need that team aspect, but maybe not in the way I once visualized. And eventually we'll have a team and they'll grow with me.
Right.
But, so yeah, just learning that, you know, just kind of like learning how to maintain that confidence. People aren't shaking my hand all the time at events and being like, yeah, I love what you're doing. Usually it could be 15 hours on a Monday that I'm just sitting in the office plugging away on the computer by myself. And I got to like keep those intrusive thoughts from coming in.
Yeah.
Like nobody cares, you know, because you think those things when you're in that space, but you're like, no, man, there's a reason I'm doing this.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's essentially, you know, how things shifted there.
When it's quiet, what do you hear when it's quiet?
Yeah. But
And how you handle those voices is I think a lot of the entrepreneurial journey, because you can snowball anything, positivity or negativity. We were having a conversation just a little bit ago, and we're thinking about the expo and talking through that, and you can get into that nervous spot where you're like, man, this could at any minute it just explode on us, and not go the way we want it to go. And then what do we do from there? And it just causes questions.
Exactly.
And you can feed that, or we can say, we'll take that with a grain of salt, but let's get out there and keep beating feet and keep pushing on. So, and you're doing that.
Yeah.
So what you've done, where it doesn't sound like you have buried apparel entirely. It's over here for now.
Yeah. So, cause like my main thing, like what I've invested the most time and effort and everything into is my podcast.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'm destined to make that succeed. And, so as that grows and I get in a more financially capable place and actually get ahead, okay, then I can start reinvesting back in the brand.
Sure.
in other ways, right? So let's do some apparel launches.
Then it'll be much more organic
and build
too.
up. Yeah, make it more organic. Because at the end of the day, like there's only so much. You get to the next month and you're like, oh, every dime has to go towards bills.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's times it's been like, what can I sell just to like cover this crap?
I'm there every weekend just because I love to sell stuff.
I guess I'm minimizing junk, but I'm like, man, I can get $1,000 for this thing. You think about what you don't need, but you're like, I'll do whatever I got to do to get there, and keep rolling.
Well, and that's the hustle. And I think that's what, that's one of the reasons why we have this podcast, because it literally we're building from the ground up, or the business has ground you up and spit you out. That is the hustle mentality, right? Like we've talked about these things before, whatever it takes,
Yeah.
If that means selling some of your nice shoes,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
in order to pay a bill. That's what you do,
Yeah.
right?
You do what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the podcast.
Yeah.
So give us the, I feel like and celebrate it, because you have killed it. You're just released your 125th episode. Tell us about how many listeners you have. I know you've got guests coming in from all over the place. Maybe highlight some of the guests you've had. Give us the highlight reel.
Yeah. So, like at this point, I guess at about episode 80, I took on the production stuff solo too.
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of part of it. I mean, the past person, like just we hit a roadblock, didn't agree on things.
Sure.
It was time to separate. Now that's forced growth for me, because I was like, hey, I got to adapt.
Yeah.
It's entrepreneurship in a nutshell.
It really is.
So I got to learn how to do this thing. And then I fell in love with it. I'm like, oh, I really love this whole process. I love getting all detail oriented, and like, this is mine too. And I love it that much. So I'm going to make it better, and I'm going to do as well as I can. And now I've got a lot more freedom, so I can bring guests in whenever. I tell people, I'm like, if you got to record at midnight on a Friday, like I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty cool to have that kind of freedom. And, but analytically, it's been great. I forget how many thousand we had at the beginning of 24, but I know, about 6,000 subscribers on YouTube right now, and it's all been organic.
Awesome. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Exactly. And it's all been organic, especially for a long form podcast. You know what I'm saying?
It's not
like
easy.
The growth is a little bit slower, because are people going to invest the time in to listen to these long 2-hour stories sometimes?
Right.
But, in last year alone is 180% growth, and I think on Spotify, I'm at like top 2% of video podcasts.
But the growth answers your question of will they listen? It's because people do love stories.
Yeah.
That's what hooks everybody.
Yeah.
That's why you watch Landman on Amazon right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a story.
Yeah.
And you get invested in the characters. And now you're invested in Joe's story or whoever the guest is. You're like, I got to find out how this ends.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, next week we're going to have this person on and they did this. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I listen to that too.
Exactly.
But people love story.
Yep.
But then, on the flip side of the apparel, now you're building the audience.
Mm-hmm. And then I can start
So now
releasing.
you have something to sell it to.
Yep.
Where before it's like, we got cool shit. I don't have an audience.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Hello?
And
Bueller?
Exactly.
that happens a lot.
And that's the plan, is building that audience more and more.
You build the audience. Now, whatever you sell, Joe, they're going to buy it.
Yep.
Hey, I've got these cool beanies. Cool. I've got this bracelet that I've, I had them remade from such and such. I found, parts of my motorcycle or what, whatever.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh my God, I got to have a piece of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because now they're invested.
Exactly.
You have the audience.
Yeah, so that's a great point. And I told Roy this when we started working on the magazine, and things really started to gain traction as we were converting it from just a print publication to a marketing company. I told him, I said, I feel like all of my entrepreneurial life, everything I've learned through the hustle and the struggle
for sure.
has literally been for this moment right now.
Yeah.
So it's not without the ideas were always there. I didn't have the platform or the audience. Mm-hmm. So what I did is I took the recipe, the ideas, and I mixed them with the audience.
Yeah.
And you see what we've created.
Exactly.
Right. And it starts to really, really work.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think
It's
you
case
got a
in
beautiful
point.
thing going on. I
It's
mean,
case
your
in
whole
point.
network is awesome.
Well, I wasn't fishing for a compliment, but I'll take it.
You're welcome.
Yes, I appreciate you. So that what you've done is freaking amazing. So how do we monetize it?
Yeah, and that's the key, and like you said, to highlight a couple of my guests, I got to give one that rings a bell. Like, they're all been amazing, but like he's now a client of mine, so we've become real close. Rick Cheatham. Dude's got such a powerful story, went through like addiction, early in his marriage, porn addiction, which is something people don't really highlight much. So for him
talk about it.
But he went far with it, and now he's got him and his wife been married 35 years or so.
Oh, wow.
They've got a super strong marriage. She was with him all through that, but they've got a lot of mentorship, and she realized it wasn't about her. It's a deeper seated thing, which is the case. It's introduced to men at very young ages, typically. And, something I think most guys have struggled with at some point. And, he goes through that whole journey, but then they build, they have kids. He's a firefighter, in Anaheim. And then his son gets murdered. I think this is probably like 12 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah, by his business partner. Like, and he goes into detail about this murder. Like Rick's telling me, and I'm like, dude, I'm like trying not to sob while he's telling me this story. And he goes through that whole journey to where like they moved to Nashville, him and his wife. And then he's walking to his bed and falls and like breaks his neck. He's paralyzed from the chest down.
What?
And this was just like 3 or 4 years ago. And now he learned how to walk again, but now I'm personal training him. He's trusted me. He comes to me twice a week. But what's so powerful about Rick is that he was truly able to forgive all of it. He was able to forgive the guy that took his son's life. He's able to find purpose in the death of his son. And to be able to do that is such a powerful testimony, because most of us will never face anything like that.
No.
So it makes us wonder, like, well, if he can forgive that, why can't I forgive this one little thing that somebody screwed me over one time? Because I can, like, still got my kids or whatever the case is.
Jeez.
And so, and he mentors me, like, before our Tuesday sessions earlier in the morning. But I got to give credit to him. I mean, that's one highlight that just, it sticks with me because he's impacted me so much overall in life.
Yeah, I mean, you should highlight that.
Yeah. And then, I recently had one of the guys from Aerial Recovery on. So I don't know if you've heard of them. They're actually on that. So Seth Griffith, and, it's just learn his story about, like, and even Ben Monette, but, like, these guys they're veterans, and they both face alcohol. They're special operations guys out there doing all this decorated, crazy stuff, but then their home life, they're drinking because all they know is the mission.
Yeah.
And you realize these guys that are these high performers that people hold to a standard, like within, they're actually going through turmoil.
I may have heard this on your listening to your podcast. I don't really remember, but I heard a guy say it's easy to go on a mission.
Oh,
so I just took one mission after. I know where I've got to be. I know what I got to do, and I'm secluded in doing so.
Yeah.
When I come home, it's
Dad
hard
Well, 'cause
to
the
put the
purpose-
dad hat on. The
purpose
husband,
is gone.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it making that transition is really, really tough for some guys.
Exactly, because that's all they know. They know the mission of the men, Like,
Yeah.
the military doesn't train you for being family men. They train you to, like, do a job.
Right.
That's just the truth, And so, just God, there's so many people I could highlight, man. My friend Cassie, that one impacted me. She tried to, take her life. My wife, like her telling her story and just showing that kind of strength, just to, like, share the abuse she went through, because that was hard for her, but just had that courage to share that story. And then, of course, I had her on my 100th episode. I wanted, like, a big guest, and then I thought I slept on it, and the next morning she came by the office. I was like, babe, I know who my 100th episode is going to be. And she's like, who? And I was like, you. I was like, because you've been there since the beginning of this shit. And she started tearing up. She's like, that means a lot,
Yeah.
And, and we just talked about a bit of the ups and downs, and but this journey's not only been difficult, but it's strengthened the hell out of us.
Sure.
And so that's a beautiful thing. And I think just, I mean, I could go on and on about guests. Of course, you guys.
Well,
it is what it is.
I don't got to
middle of the road ranked episode I was on.
I think everybody, and the cool thing is, it's like you got somebody that's maybe highly decorated and done all kinds of stuff, to somebody that nobody knows about.
It's the gamut of stories.
That's why my line on my page on YouTube, it says everyone has a story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to have the famous people with millions of followers, of course, because they all got crazy stories, and that's going to give me exposure. But I'll never pull away from just bringing normal people on, because they got to be heard too.
Yeah.
It's relatable. And
Yeah.
that content, I think what you're creating is something that people not only need, but can connect with.
Exactly.
So you're finding your identity in helping people find their identity.
Yeah.
And that's pretty crazy. And I want to go more into that, and we're going to do that right after this break.
Here in Nashville for the 7th Country Music Marathon and Half Marathon. I think it says a lot about the city of Nashville, what it has to offer.
And we're back. I don't know why.
Do you do that?
I don't know why.
You do it every time.
I do it for you.
At the corner of my eye, I catch
Stop.
like Lee
He
Priest.
says just stop.
Yeah. Lee Priest is staring at you.
Well, at least I had a
Hardcore.
conversation. I heard what a good guy he was, and I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. So it's not as intense.
Not as intense as he looks.
No,
Knowing how he is, yeah.
When so me and Lee Priest had cheeseburgers together, which was that's a highlight of my life.
That sounds like the start of a joke.
But no, but could not have been a nicer human.
Really.
He looks not nice,
Well,
but man, such a good dude.
I
He's
mean,
hilarious too. He says some shit that I'm like, oh, don't say that in public. However, he does. Anyway,
I only got to talk to him briefly. As we were passing through the expo last year, but yeah, let's get into the nitty gritty of the podcast. So, how does it right now? Does it make money, or does it?
Doesn't at all. And you know, it's funny because people come on there and they just assume they're like, this must be what pays your bills.
sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. And I can't crack the code, you know, because like people get the sponsorships and then like maybe, and I will say this is another part of it since you asked that, you know, coming into the season I'm in now, like currently, like I said, with all this stuff going on, my focus is intense right now. Like I've been able to like forgive a lot of people. Like I had to forgive myself ultimately.
Yeah.
I had this list I burned. It was a trader list, and had a bunch of people on there that just screwed me over the years, and the last name was myself. And I burn it as
Dang.
a symbolism to let it all go, because ultimately I had to forgive myself for allowing them to
Yes.
occupy my mind
Yep.
and screw me off. So yeah, I could have been 15 hours of work a day. Doesn't mean my focus is where it needed to be.
Sure.
So now I've intensified that, and it's
Yeah.
where it needs to be. So anyways, it's just,
Well, yeah, and you're going to need to be focused for the next level,
Yeah.
right? Like where you're about to go with this thing, because and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but right here it feels like your foundation is laid. All we have to do is point to it, right? And you can do that. I mean, you've sent me some things, like your pitch deck and your pricing and your tier system. Which when we talked, I think we talked a while back about creating a tier system for your podcast, and you've done that.
yeah. And I've added some other layers too. I was like,
Yeah. What I will say is my main takeaway. I was trying to show Roy this, but it wouldn't load on my phone for whatever reason. My main takeaway when I read that was that it might be a tad bit too involved.
yeah.
It might need to be simplified. And I would say that I say that for the sake of readability.
Yeah.
When you have someone who comes to the table and they're ready to purchase, and we've learned this. I remember our first pitch deck for the expo was a lot more
Wordy.
more wordy. The first emails we would send out were this long, right? And then we shortened them way up to here.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to learn that stuff as you go, but you got to realize two things. One, when you're sending that out and you want people to make a quick decision,
Are you talking about the initial email or the sponsor packet?
I'm talking about both things.
Okay.
Simplicity in a nutshell.
Yeah.
When you're sending it out, they're not going to give you much time to read over whatever you're sending them.
Mm-hmm.
So the faster you can say it,
Interesting.
Get to the point.
yeah, the better for you it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get into the next level, and that next level is clicking the attachment to see your pitch deck.
Yep.
Right. On the other side, if they already know about your brand, and they like what you're doing, that means they're a warm, maybe even a hot lead at that point.
Yeah.
You don't want to cool them off by making them read too much.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is oftentimes I'll just get on the phone with people. Now, let me just run this down, and I'm practiced at this point.
Yeah.
Let me just run this down for you. Hey, can we jump on a Zoom call? Hey, can we jump on a Zoom call? I took a phone call today. with Get Fit Anytime, and I'm like, I'm a block away. I'm just gonna stop in. So I stopped in, and like it's nice to shake hands and look people in the eye, and I can go over it real quick, right?
Yeah.
On the phone, sometimes I'm distracted. I'd rather see their face. So I'm between being in person and on Zoom is what I prefer.
Yeah.
A regular phone call, I'm just not. It's hard for me to focus. And when I'm talking to Roy about a problem I have, and my wife makes fun of me all the time, I'm out here pacing. So I'm trying. So I
do
can,
the same
so
thing.
I can stay focused.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll sit on the computer.
Yeah.
Oh, I could when I call him and I could hear his voice is dropping off, and I'm like, oh, he's starting to type.
Lost his attention.
I was like, all right, I'll let you go. This is not important. We'll talk later. Which is very rarely. I don't throw Roy under the bus. The point I'm trying to make here is simplicity is the only thing I feel after I looked at all of that stuff. That's the only thing I feel like you're missing.
Do you think the video thumbnail is a good idea?
I think the video thumbnail is a good idea because it gives the context.
Yeah, so it's an option. Like if they don't want to read the stuff, they can just click that and just at least learn about it and see.
What's the video thumbnail?
It's his story, right?
Yeah, so I basically just go into the podcast just for like 4 minutes. It's just a 4-minute video. Basically, they click this thumbnail. It takes them to an unlisted video on YouTube.
Yeah.
And they get to view that and kind of see what it's about.
Tell us about your story, about the podcast.
Yeah.
Here's how to support it.
Exactly. I just edited it with like my audio equipment and stuff, made it, all professional. And so,
Yeah.
add some music in and they can like,
Well, what I like about it is that's also trackable. So over time, if you keep leaving that in there, you can go look at the video on YouTube and see, is it getting viewed?
yeah.
And you'll know
If it works or not.
if it works or not. Yeah. And in that case, then maybe you shorten it.
Tweak it. Yeah.
And then put it back out there and
Yeah.
see how that works. I don't think it's broken. Well, all we're talking
4 minutes is good.
Yeah, all I think we're talking about here is refinement.
Yeah.
The ability to refine your product is where you need to be. So how simple can you make it? Because you've got all the other data is there. The foundation's laid.
Yeah, I think a big thing for me was just like, for recently has been really hard for me to pitch because like I'm confident in my work. I believe in it so much, obviously, but because it's such a passionate thing.
Oh, I understand.
Pitching it as a business move has been really hard for me. So I have been reluctant on doing so.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just like, I really don't know. I'm trying to uncover that. Now, I will say I've been very bold lately. Just in the past, since I texted you guys, I've had 4 meetings, Zoom calls and in person. One guy's committed already, so he'll be, sponsoring, I think, in a month or 2, but he's like 100% in.
Yeah.
And then I've got 2 other guys that are like, sold them on it, and I'm recording with them actually next week and the following week. Right. And so they get to know me a little bit more. Now they see what I'm offering.
Yeah.
But then they, and at the end of it, I'm like, hey, either way, like I'm just no obligation. I'm just stoked to connect and hear your story, and just to add that, like, hey, I'm not just trying to get your business,
Sure,
but being more bold about it because like, and I think for me, I'm like, I built this thing up and I'm like, oh, y'all are gonna think I'm ridiculous. Let me email Lululemon and Ghost Energy and all the biggest brands I could find, which I'm going to keep doing because my hopes has been able to snag something that's like a 2-year contract with one of those companies.
Here's what I can tell you. The answer is always no if you don't ask.
Yeah.
Right.
Let them tell you no. Let them ghost you.
Yeah.
Look, that's like Jay Cutler talking about the expo. The only reason we got Jay Cutler to come to the expo the first year is because I didn't take no response for
An answer.
I DM'd the shit out of him until he finally said, here's the email my manager. And I emailed his manager, which it was not his manager. His manager is Matt. He had me email his fiance, which I didn't know, that was who he had me email. And he did it so he could see the email. And
Interesting.
Yeah, he said, DM me the purpose of the expo, or email my manager the purpose of the expo. And I just laid it out and then responded, she or he, whoever was looking at the email, responded with, let's get on a phone call. So we get on a phone call and he never asked price, or we never talked money. I say price. We was actually paying him,
right.
But we never talked money at all.
Yeah.
It was about the passion for what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, let's come to terms. And, he's like, I tell you what I can do. He's like, I probably shouldn't be saying this because it's going to kill his event stuff. But he's like, well, I can fly this airline and I can save you money this way. And I've got a person that I'm related to that's in the Marriott, and we can do the friends and family. Like, he was trying to save us money.
Yeah.
Because he loved what we were doing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with you.
100%.
It's not a pitch because you're selling the passion, which helps you move it forward. So it's you're not selling.
That's the whole thing. And I'm like, if
That's
I can
the
get on
difference.
a Zoom call with Ghost, they see how fired up I get. They'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, shoot, like, put this
Yeah.
guy on a radar. But I also, like, had to reel back from that. I'm like, well, I need to be more proactive with the local businesses. There's people around me that got businesses that are trying to succeed and get out there and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can hone my skills in there and be more proactive towards that. And then when I'm emailing these other guys and they happen to go look at my page and they see that, or they see, what I'm working on doing, I'll tell you when y'all want me to. But then that gives it more confidence,
Right.
It
as
helps
well.
you refine.
Yeah.
Refine this. I say pitch, and I don't mean pitch in a negatory way, but just like you were saying about shortening things, you have to figure out when you're talking to someone who's a decision maker for something like that, you've got this much time to get their attention.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the hook?
Yeah.
Like, you figure out in your story, like, so you're telling the story about the first guy. I totally just forgot his name because I have ADD.
It's okay.
But the first guy
Rick.
was Rick. So when you start telling me, I'm like, fuck, now I got to go listen to this podcast because you hooked me,
Right.
and I'm like,
Right.
okay. So and that's all you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
And it's
that
not,
simple.
and it's not as, I think the takeaway there is it's not as complicated as you think
Yeah.
it is, or that you make it out to be, because, and this is the work you just did, right? The identity work that you just did should reap you some confidence in this department.
100%.
Like, your story holds weight because it helps people, period. Right?
Yeah.
So how can you share that story in a way that pushes the brand so that people are like, oh, I want to underwrite that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Can you do that and you do that effectively in a short amount of time? And I think you can. Actually, I know you can.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of flipping the switch from, you're not a sleazy sales guy.
Yeah.
Right. And that's,
I don't want to come off that. That's
everybody.
Like, he
thinks that.
asked that. It's just like,
That's
it's
what
almost
everybody
like I feel like
thinks.
that. You
Yeah,
know
but-
what I'm saying?
So probably before, when you said you had a problem like doing that, it's just a mindset thing, just like what you're everything you're going through. The whole purpose of getting sponsors is not just to get the money.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of the sponsor is to move forward the vision.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the difference. It's the key difference. Like,
Right.
Of course we want to make $1 when we do the expo, but if we don't, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose money, but we can't do that. But if we can move the vision forward and we break even, cool, we win. Same thing for you.
Exactly.
You're getting these people on board, and that's the thing with advertisers. They get hit up all the time for mindless advertising, and meaning, hey, I need you to sponsor, this. I need you to sponsor that. But when you're sponsoring something that actually has purpose behind it, and then you hit them back on the other side of that with, oh, here's the analytics that shows how many people listen and watch and download. Now they're like, well, you just took away all my no's.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty impressed by my analytics. I don't know
Dude,
what you
they're-
thought.
they're
Like,
impressive.
That's what I'm over here like, he's killing it. Like,
thank you.
that is, that's probably, it's the best analytics I've heard, period, from any local podcast here. So that's what I'm saying. The ingredients and the foundation are right there.
Yeah.
It's just getting you out of that,
It's awareness.
that limited, what's the limiting mindset of, I can't convey this in a simple way, or you feel less than.
Yeah.
When you have to put it on that role and basically sell.
Yeah, I just try to, because I'm one of those people. I'm like, I've always told myself, no matter
not
where I
taking
get in
advantage of
life, I got
anybody.
I try to remain as humble as possible, and I'm
Right.
just like, so it's just this, it's just been a mindset thing, 100%, because like I said, Blake came on, he was like, so this this year pays all your money, right? And I was like, no, I don't make money. Like Blake Harris said that. And I was like, man, if people are assuming that, then like I'm doing something wrong, you know? And it's just like, you know, you hear it all the time. You know, I've told people this a bunch of times recently. It's like, if my building was to burn, my business was to burn down tomorrow, you know, I'd be okay because I gave everything I had until then. But like, I'll never quit because if I quit one day and the next day was a phone call I got from Ghost, like, hey, can we sponsor your podcast? I'm like, shit, you know, and that's the risk you run. So that's why quitting is never an option. And obviously, you know, if you do burn down, you're much stronger and better than at that point than you were years ago.
And you're going through some similar thoughts that like we're in a stage of this. We're going through a little bit of this right now with the NFM staff and the sales team, is that it does feel like. Anthony said it the other day to me. He goes, all right. Because he saw that we put together a new sales strategy, sales framework. And he's like, yeah, I'm about to go get my Wolf of Wall Street on. And I'm like, I like the idea.
But that's not it.
But that's not it. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
And he's just playing around, mind you. But the idea is conversation. Yeah. And through that conversation, I'm building trust. I'm building rapport. And if I am listening, which you have to listen, then you can hear the pain points. If you can deliver strategy, even just briefly, over how to solve those pain points, you don't want to give away the whole kit and caboodle, but you can leave breadcrumbs.
Yeah,
I leave breadcrumbs all the time. Well, then you're giving them something for nothing, and now you're building trust. Mm-hmm. And with that trust, well, then those are the main ingredients for the quote unquote pitch. Mm-hmm. Here's how I could do this for you on a full scale. Yeah. And from that, it's just a conversation. Yeah. You know, it rolls out, it comes out naturally, and it's pointed, it solves problems, and it solves problems for the both of you. It's like the goal is for this to be a win-win all the way around.
And that's why I was like, after I sent you that, like, I actually had something happen that like sparked more creativity with my packet. Mm-hmm. You know, so I don't know if y'all want me to share that.
Sure.
Like what I want to do.
Let's go for it.
Because everything you said, like, really clicked then is value, right? You want people to, like, you know, for me, it's just like, can I offer more than just pay me to read an ad? Like, what else can I do? Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking about the, you know, kind of digital marketing aspect. Yes. Okay, so there's a lot of local businesses. Hey, maybe you don't want me just to read an ad. Okay, well, there's a step up to where you can read your ad. I'll record you. I'll come to where you're at with some equipment. You can do it. Okay, here's another step up. Let's get comprehensive. Let's add in another layer. If you want to come in, or I'll come to your business, I'll bring some equipment. We'll record a 30, 45-minute segment of you talking just about your business, and I will make that an episode. And then I'll clip that up into 10 to 20 clips. We can put that. I'll put it on Facebook. I've got a great local reach on there. Yep. I could put it on TikTok. You could put it on your website, wherever you want to put it. So then you got 20 clips of advertising of you talking about certain points.
More value.
Yes, and then on top of that, there's another little layer too. But like, you know, and I got the camera, so I can add some B-roll to it if you want me to. It's kind of an add-on, just to make it prettier. But what sparked this was my CPA. I was talking to him. He was like, hey, you know, there's a lot of people that struggle with, like, you know, doing tax, like fixing their taxes when they have issues. And like, I got people that come to me saying, oh, they saw this video on TikTok. And he's like, no, that's illegal. You know, he said, so if I'm a CPA, like, would you think there'd be value in that? I'm like, sure. Like, a lot of people, I mean, hell, like, he's doing my taxes because the guy I hired didn't report 4 years of my taxes.
Nice.
So I got this guy correcting everything.
Yeah.
And he pitched me, he gave me that idea, and I was like, yeah, I'll be more than happy. I was like, I can come here, you can come to my studio, you know, and I'll clip up a bunch of information and help you. And so and I was like, dude, I could actually use this towards my sponsorships.
Yes.
So now they got all this content, and then I got a playlist of collaborations on YouTube with each of those episodes that I do for them. So when Ghost or whoever comes and sees it, they're like, oh shoot, look at the effort he puts in to, like, giving them value. And so they trust it more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes 100% sense.
You literally did with just that one idea what I've done with the entire magazine. Like, that's the...
Are we competitors now?
No.
Joking.
No, only community over competition.
No, I'm with you. Man.
No, I'm over here thinking about how I can use your platform to activate for my clients. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's how I see it. It's like, there's power there in that sense of spreading the good news of these businesses.
Yeah.
But that's the point I'm trying to make, is that what is a podcast if it's not an element or a marketing tool or marketing resource of some sort.
Yeah.
Yes, you're telling stories. There is tons of entertainment value there. And those stories can change lives and be transformative.
Yeah.
So it is that perfect thing and you get that eye roll every once in a while. At least I do. Podcasts. Do people listen to podcasts? It's like they definitely listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Podcasts are huge. Yeah.
Right. So in essence,
Podcasts
though,
are massive.
when you pull out the transformative, you pull out the storytelling, you pull out the entertainment value, it is a framework. It's an advertising engine framework.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're taking that advertising engine framework and you're thinking it's in the industry of advertising, it's in the industry of marketing.
Yeah.
How can I branch out of that? And that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So what you're doing when you're saying I'm coming out, I'll do a 45-minute whatever. We call that an advertorial.
Yeah.
So I did one of those or two of those just this week. I put them on the website and they come out as business spotlights. Yeah. Right. So there's a YouTube version of that. There's a blog version of that. And then there's a print version of that.
Nice.
And it's a way for me to tell someone's story that links it back to their business or brand. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Same thing.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
the exact same thing.
Heck yeah. So it's obviously a smart move.
Yeah,
That's a great move.
It's a great move. It's literally fanning out the portfolio in a way that you can.
And had it, and
add
had I
value.
not exactly, and had I not had to learn how to do all the stuff, well, then I
wouldn't
really
have
wouldn't have
been
that
able- you would've never
capability.
thought it.
Right.
Now I'm like, oh, I can do this myself and actually get things to like a better place.
Yep.
And like I said, start getting ahead and whatnot, because that's the thing. Like I know I need to be out networking. I want to do that so bad. And we talked about it at the events you guys had that I came to not long ago. But when you're constantly just trying to make it,
Oh, I know.
that's like really hard to do, because you're like, that's away from the office. Like that could be money lost. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm freaking out. I'm like, I can't go to this thing in the middle of the week because I got to freaking work.
Yeah.
So now once I can get ahead, that gives me breathing room to be able to go
Yes.
connect and interact and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, and then you get back to the team building aspect, which now since you've been through so much hell with that, you'll know how to do that in a way in the future.
Yeah.
That will where you can you'll be able to get character buy-in and trustworthiness from the get-go.
The thing is like I've got to own it. At the end of the day, I gave an opportunity, and my expectation was that they're always going to be there. They're going to be there even when it falls. They don't owe me shit.
Yeah.
They joined in but for this reason. They're going to get apparel, get stuff paper. They're sponsored athletes, and then when life happens, why would I expect them to back it up fully? You know what I'm saying? Like that's. So I had to come to the realization, like, nah, dude, they don't owe me nothing. And that
But I'm glad you're there.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're there. But
It's a hard lesson.
Yeah.
I had to learn the same lesson.
Yeah,
I
really?
think I may have told you that.
I think we all have.
I remember seeing a picture on your wall of one of the athletes that was mine, and I was like, "Oh God, I hope she don't do to him what she did to me." Turns out she did, obviously. But it's a lesson that you have to learn.
Oh yeah, necessary.
Because otherwise you're like, "Oh," and I see it, dude, because we're out there at events, and I see all these other clothing brands doing the same thing, and I'm like, of course nobody listens to me, and I'm like, dude, that's not the way to do it. Well, I'm wrong. And then,
Well, I think this would
then I
separate
see
you.
that athlete post for.
I listen to you.
Well, I'm glad somebody does.
That's how you see who's going to actually make it. Do they have what it takes? Because they're going to go through that possibly.
Yeah.
And then are they going to figure it out and keep rolling?
Yeah.
Right.
Or are they going to be like, dude, screw this, man. Like I lost the whole team. Like what am I? But you got to I think that's the beauty in it. You got to hit that ground at one point and really hone in on yourself. And that's where I'm at. I'm glad for it.
Nobody ever loves the brand or believes in it more than you.
Right.
100%.
Ever.
Right.
As much as you think people will, no.
Yeah.
And if you do find somebody, and
Don't
you
let 'em
could,
go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's ultra rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's don't let them go.
Don't let them go.
I think the one person that matters with that is like your spouse. If you're married.
Sure.
for sure.
Because if you're go through all this time struggling, you don't want them to be like, why are you doing it? Why don't you just, you got to maintain, hey, keep believing in this. And I'm fortunate because my wife believes me wholeheartedly, and she's backs me up 110%.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that. But
So we've talked about a lot of things. So I put this on the board, and it's even accidentally falling right in line. So we've talked about the structure of your brand, which came from your accident to to the inner work that you've done, to the transformative power of the podcast through telling story. So it's the structure, right? It is a podcast primarily where eventually you should probably be able to launch some products out of it, like Roy was saying. And I think that is definitely true. You're stabilizing it, right? The stability comes in the way that you present your packages. So you have the packages, that's the lion's share of the work.
Yeah.
Simplifying them is the next part.
Okay.
Right? So, and then you're really off to the races. So at that point, you're going to have to start segmenting your time. So your time is going to go, 20% of your time is going to be dedicated to sales.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to figure out what that looks like. Is it shooting out a bunch of emails? Because it's probably that. Is it making up a bunch of phone calls? Probably half the time. People don't respond to that like they used to. But it's certainly getting out and getting to know folks, and maybe even going up to a business that you're even halfway familiar with and saying, can I tell your story? Right? Yeah. So there are three main ways for you to sell in that way. So whatever amount of time you can put towards that at any given week, dedicate it. Yeah. Don't mess with it. Leave it be. You're going to have to do the same thing with your admin time. You're going to have to dedicate your admin time. If that's all day Monday, so be it. It's all day Monday. You're the most efficient at the beginning of the week, or I would like to say we're powered by anxiety. We just get in there like, we just got to get it done. It was on my mind yesterday, and I was trying to watch football.
Yeah.
So there's that level. And you'll add products as you go, and that'll be great. Just don't make it super complicated, and don't make the tiers and the programs war against each other so that it gets confusing. The next thing, hold on, I'll talk in 1 second. The next thing is scalability.
Okay.
So if you have stability, then scalability is 100% possible. Most people don't have number one and number two even closely set up. They might be stable, but they have no structure, and that's probably more often.
Which is funny.
Yeah, it's more often
stable
not
without a structure.
Yeah, it's stable without a structure.
Yeah,
but it happens.
Yeah, they're stable. They're stable in what they're delivering, but they don't have the back end processes to support
the scale.
So, example: bought Nashville Fit magazine. Seemingly, outside looking in, looks stable. The inside looking around, you're like, we have no systems and processes. We don't have.
Is there a fire in here?
Yeah, it's like, why are all the forms burnt?
Yeah.
Like, where is everything? Yeah. So we had to go back and structure it.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Well, that made it even more stable, and gave us the ability to create products out of that. And now we're moving towards scaling.
Yeah.
So, and that's the process. I know I'll cut you off for a second, so go ahead.
Oh no. Well, there was something you said at the beginning that I forgot that thought. Well, and we talked about like the, going to record and going to these businesses like that. But that right there is so valuable because you're building a connection with them. You're building a relationship, But to your point of condensing things, I had a meeting with one of the guys over Zoom, and he's like, "All right, explain this thing to me." It's kind of confused. Like, he's looking at
he told you
the sponsorship thing. Fortunately for me, it was cool too because I was like, all right. Because he was like, man, everybody keeps telling me you got to meet Joe Adams, man. I got to meet Joe Adams. And I'm like,
I say that all the time.
I appreciate that. I was like, dude, that's a huge compliment. Like, that's that kind of stuff, Like I said, I'm always working in the walls. So
I literally had a coffee meeting this morning with a guy. I was like, dude, you got to meet Joe Adams. He's like, I'm going to be on his podcast. It was Aaron Hines.
Oh, yeah. I've started getting more proactive with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And the value there. I mean, shoot, I went to Ghost. And I went through the people, and there was like Ghost marketing chick, Ghost sponsor that person. I'm like, hey, connect. Like, I'd love to connect with you. I'm just doing it all. Like, most of them are ignored right now, but still, like, one guy followed me back. At least he's like kind of keeping an eye on things.
Right.
But or like connected with me. But
see, and that's I took this course at one of my business retreat things I did. And they had speakers come in on the power of LinkedIn and how, all right, you followed him, he followed you back. Now you hit him with a message. Hey, man, thanks for following me back. I'd love to grab a Zoom coffee with you one morning. I want to learn more about what y'all do at Ghost.
Yeah.
Now you're asking him to talk about himself. Everybody wants to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
So now you pull him in. Because what's he going to do after he talks about himself? Joe, tell me about what you do.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
You didn't pitch a thing.
The hook is set.
Boom.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, hey, man, I'll send you a link of my podcast. we tell people stories. Here's a little bit about my story.
Yeah.
And you give them the Cliff Notes version. He's like, God dang it, I got to learn more about this guy.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. I try to connect it with Liquid Death too, because I'm like, guys, like, I'm metal as shit. We'd be a perfect fit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love y'all's marketing. Like, this is right up my alley, dude.
Yep.
You know, but there's so much opportunity out there, right? And that's the thing, and like that's why I know. Yeah, I've been missing. I just haven't tackled it in the right way. So obviously, this whole thing just helps me keep things in mind, moving forward, and has offered me a lot of value on what I need to do. Like, I'm grateful for the clarity and all this stuff, and it's like in the back of my head, I know it needs to be done, but I don't. And I want to ask y'all a question. Okay, with the scale, and that's something out there too. Like, if I get a lot of these, well, that's good. But now I can afford to pay someone to I can still do all this stuff, but like, okay, now I got to pay somebody to edit my stuff. Sure. Because like, that's a lot of hours behind the computer. I mean, for me, because I'm really detail-oriented with my clips and stuff, I'll spend an entire Monday editing an episode and doing all the clips and getting them exactly how I want them. Because I just want that recognizability the whole time. And I could condense it, but I just like very peculiar. But there's going to be somebody I can hire that's better than me at it. And it's like, all right, well, you just take this and
make them look like
do
this.
Do that. And he's like, dude, I'll do it better. That's what I want.
Yeah.
You know?
As you scale, we had this talk the other day. So it's like the warm body. That's what you get when you're starting a business, and right now you're in the solopreneur. You're doing it all by yourself. It is what it is, right? You clean the commodes and you sign the autographs. You do everything in between. Then you get the warm bodies, right? Just generalist. Hey, can you go pick up my mail? Can you move this box and take it to UPS? Just any task that can keep you focused on the things that
grow the brand.
Grow the brand. Then you get to specialist, which is where you'll be going with the scale, where you're like,
sooner than later, probably.
Yeah. Hey, let me get somebody in here. It's a pro at doing these videos. He's going to be able to do them way faster than you, because he's probably got some AI tool these kids use these days.
Yeah.
That, chop this stuff up. But absolutely.
Yeah.
And then because the brand, you are a huge part of the brand, right? And y'all both have said it, which is funny that I don't know if either one of y'all picked up on it, but you got to meet Joe. You got to meet Joe.
Right.
It's you have a presence, right? When we were at the Fit Pro Success Summit, Gunner, don't know you from anybody. He's like, who's this dude? Like, you walk in the door, he said it to me. He's like, who's this guy?
He came up, he was like, I'm Gunnar Peterson. I'm like, oh, Joe Adams.
Yeah.
He's like, are you speaking? I'm like, no, I hear about you speak, dude.
So
it's funny.
So you really need to lean into that, which is not easy.
Yeah.
But remember, it's for the greater good of the purpose.
Yeah.
And not, hey, I'm trying to be a celebrity.
Yeah.
It's not. Don't look at that part. Just go, man, I'm going to push my focus forward. I'm going to push this brand forward because I want everybody to see, what our purpose is.
Yeah.
And if you have, quote unquote, celebrity-ish status out of that, okay, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
That's great, because that helps you spread the brand even further.
Yeah.
Because that unlocks those doors of, man, I've been here and I got to meet you, so I wanted to meet you.
Yeah.
You know what came to my mind during this podcast was that you going to just random people, Broadway or in a Walmart parking lot, doesn't matter. Say, tell me your story. Tell me when you're part of your story where your life was changed, and you flip that microphone.
That'd be an interesting clip.
Like, I just can't imagine the level of intensity that you could get into really just letting someone share for a hot second.
That reminds me of one of my favorite podcasts called Soft White Underbelly. And this guy interviews, he's from Hollywood. He's a photographer, but he interviews prostitutes, addicts, homeless people that are have schizophrenia, and he sits them in a stool, and it's black and white.
How'd you get here?
And he just has them talk.
Yeah.
And it's very it's raw stuff.
Yeah.
And in a very similar way, that's he's just having people story tell. Right.
Yeah.
And he has his own aesthetic too. He's got 6 million subscribers.
Right.
Yeah, it's insane. But I love that, because I'm like, dude, he's able to just, pull anybody off the street and just, hey, you want to come have this conversation, and I've thought about that. I'm like, I don't know. It's not that am distrusting of anybody that's homeless, but I'm like, dude, I just want to like talk to this guy and bring him over to the studio and just like record with him. Just tell me your story.
Just
like
anybody. I mean, the thing is, every person has a story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody. You'll never run out of stories.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I've had people come on, they're like, I'll tell them about one of my guests. They're like, dude, I don't have a crazy story like that. And they're like, I'm like, dude, you got a story. And then they finish, and I'm like, dude, that was powerful.
Yeah, I know.
See? And it's such a cool thing because they're like, oh, yeah, they're all amped up.
Yeah.
They'll check on me. They're, how you doing, Joe? Like, and I'm like, what's up, dude? I didn't think you'd like, we had this communication, but that's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to ask you, though, because you talked about the emailing people all day. That's one thing I get stuck with because I'll get like, all right, I'm going to email some businesses. And then I get on the Google, and I'm just like, businesses. And then all these different businesses pop up. I'm like, I don't know which one to click on or who to start with.
All right. So I'll tell you something I did.
Okay.
All right. So figure out who you're trying to target. Okay. Who are you? Are you just saying Murfreesboro businesses, right?
Yeah, Murfreesboro, Middle Tennessee.
Okay. Murfreesboro businesses. Right. I don't know if I ever told you a story. So we were looking for gyms, right? And I tried to do it myself. It takes forever, right? I pull up a city, and I click on the gym, scroll through their website, find the email, copy, paste. That's one. Mm-hmm. It's not as quick as it just sounded.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, God, I can't do this all day. So you can hire a virtual assistant. Mm-hmm. It's like $7 an hour.
Yeah.
And, dude, they're awesome. They can give them tasks like that. I just filmed it in a Loom video.
I'm putting this down.
Yeah, virtual assistant. You just film it in a Loom video. Hey, I need you to go, I need every business email address inside this zip code. And then share it, put it on a Google Sheet. I did like the name, business, address or email, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they just knock it out.
Nice.
And then I built a template for how I was going to email them. Just put I call it a SWAT file, but it's like on a Word document. That's copy, paste in the email, put their email in. I personalize it with their name.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Roy. Terry, I saw you got a gym in Mississippi. I'd love to do your apparel for you. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Here's an example of what we're capable of.
Nice.
And they just come back and like, oh, shit, I didn't know you. I know who you guys are. I didn't know you printed shirts.
Yeah.
It's awareness. Nobody knows.
Right.
Nice.
It's the same thing with you. Like, you get these businesses. It's just I guess it'd be a cold touch, right?
It would be. Yeah, it would be. And it's a better way to do it than, dialing up phone numbers all day long.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get nowhere there.
Or just walking in. I'll drive by a place. I'm like, man, I should go talk to those people. And I'm just like, no, maybe I don't want to bother.
Yeah, you talk yourself out of it real quick.
Yeah, but it's it's probably better off. I'm like, hey, I know you got a lot going on. If you got a minute to talk, that'd be great. I'd love to hear about you. But hey, if you'd like me to come back for some time,
So there's that level, and I think that's really, really smart.
Yeah, that's it. I got it down.
The next thing you can, and because you have such a good platform, not everybody can do this. You can say, wait, who do we want? Like, who do I want? Like, who do I feel like is a good representation of us, and who do I feel like we can represent well?
Yeah.
And if that person's in your neighborhood in Murfreesboro, then great. If they're not, and they're in Nashville, who cares? You're all over the dang place.
Yeah.
So you can shoot outside of that barrel for sure, and it's going to be those large ones, and it should be, but I wouldn't put all of my. And I know you're not, but I wouldn't put all of my effort there.
Yeah.
You could even tier those businesses like you get it. Shoot at the top if you can, and then shoot mid level for certain. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of traction to be had there. And then get on get in the underbelly of businesses that are brand new. Sometimes I feel like we're letting all the cats out of the bag on this podcast.
Secrets,
One of the things I look for marketing is I always try to look for the new gym, new business coming to town, especially if it's a franchise, because most of them have a marketing budget that is assigned from the franchisor.
Yeah.
So they have to spend $10K. They have to spend $6,000, whatever it is. And if I can get in there and be like, hey, I am your local community authority. Like, you're not going to get closer to the people than I am to the people, right?
Yeah.
And it's usually an easy conversation to be had because in that level, not only are our services pretty broad, but we're also connected, and we like to say that we are the touch point for the business to actually get to actually talk to or touch the clientele.
It's funny you say that because y'all had like the new Nashville Fit magazine with everybody on the front.
Right.
And like the other day, your story was like you at all these places. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, did he drive around Nashville all day and just take those pictures? Like,
yeah,
did he do this all in one day?
No, actually,
in one day.
No, he actually did.
I'm like, dude, he's all over the place, you know? I loved it. Yeah.
That was a team effort, but yeah, so that goes back to structure. Like, so I used to be the guy when we first got the magazine. I'd be the one out there delivering all of them.
Oh.
And then as I was doing that, I'm like, wait a second, this is social media. There's social media content to be had because people are going to want to know where they're going to get it. And I don't want to answer emails all day long. Where can I pick up the magazine?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'm just going to take a quick shot, and then they're going to feel pretty special because I mentioned them on Instagram. And that's shareable content.
Yeah.
And we're delivering them. Why are we delivering them to businesses?
Yeah.
So people go to that business.
Yeah.
Right? If they want to, if they see me on Local on 2 or they see me on your podcast or whatever, and they're like, well, how do I get a hold of that magazine?
Yeah.
Right? Well, I'm leveraging the health and fitness industry to distribute that for their good.
Yeah.
Right? And then for mine. So you have to go into that place to go get that. Yeah. So that's a new warm body that's coming in to get that magazine.
Everybody's looking at you like, who's this guy?
Yeah, right. So when as I've moved out of delivering them all myself, which this week was a little bit different because my delivery person needed a day off, so I was out there doing it all day yesterday. But she will send me all the pictures. So that's part of the job description.
Yeah.
That goes back to structure.
Nice.
So when you're talking about, well, if I need to bring an editor on, well, you need a standard operating procedure of how editing's done. And then you need to write a job description out of that.
Yeah.
So that you've set expectation. And you need to, that's almost a separate running list of things Joe needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
To fortify your structure.
I've already, so with the podcast and stuff too, how I do the process, like I've written it every step down.
Good.
Perfect. You know, and then I just refine it as I go. And I'm watching all these SEO videos, trying to learn all that crap that's ever changing, you know, and some secrets there, and I'm applying some new things. But yeah, and I think that's just kind of like part of it, but you need to have that all down so you have the structure. And I got an opportunity, and I don't know what y'all would think about this because, you know, I'm connected with MTSU, and they've got, I'm connected with their department that does production and stuff like that. So opportunity to like utilize students
Right.
Yep.
as interns, like, hey, your internship, you can come sit in on my podcast, do my editing. You know, this is what I expect. I don't know what y'all think, if that'd be too much people cycling or that it's like worth taking advantage of.
No, it'll refine you too.
Not if you have structure.
Not if you have structure. Yeah.
I'm 10 minutes away from campus.
Yeah.
You know, if like you were saying, how you document everything.
Yeah.
Do a Loom video. You ever heard of Loom?
Yeah, I've heard of Loom.
Yeah, Loom. You can video your screen, and it's like, and then it's camera, your little face in the circle at the bottom of you doing the things.
Yeah.
And if they're like, well, how that way, it doesn't matter who sits in the chair. If it's all done the correct process, then the outcome is always the same.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who edits. This is the font we use. This is the color. This is where the cuts are. This is the music. It's all going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Cool.
I would totally do that. And if you crack
Free
that,
labor is good labor.
yeah, if you crack that nut, holler at me because I have Trevecca, I've hit up Lipscomb, I've hit up Belmont, and it's just like, oh yeah. Everyone's all green lights, but I've not gotten anything in return yet. So, dang it.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna figure it out.
I'm a smaller fish in a bigger pond up here. You're shooting fish in a barrel down there. Like there's gonna be less intern opportunities, I think, down there than there would be up here.
That's very specialized too.
Yeah.
And then the thing is with that too, it's like I get multiple people come at me, and I got to pick one. I'm like, oh well, Terry's in Nashville.
Yeah.
You know, Terry and Roy, they're in Nashville. Like I can connect you with somebody with them too.
Yeah, I appreciate you on that.
Yeah, got you.
Scratch my back.
Hey man, y'all take care of me by doing this. Like it definitely gives me a lot more
Yeah.
confidence and understanding of like how I need to go about things on top of everything I've recently learned. And I'm like, dude, yes, it's like powerful.
I'm excited for you as we wind this thing down. Like like I said, you're only missing just a few ingredients, and you've already solved some of them even from the time we've scheduled this podcast to now.
Yeah.
So you're doing it, and you're doing it well, and just I think take what you've learned here today, simplify your pitch, send it to me because I'm going to want to purchase something.
Okay.
And I don't want to spend all day reading your stuff.
Yeah.
So.
So if you just go with the package, it's like a full year exclusive sponsorship.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the highest price. Go for that one. It's the most value, I promise.
I promise.
Trust me.
Just trust me.
Roy, you got anything to add? And we'll leave you with the last word.
No, I mean,
in a second.
I think you were right on the cusp of huge things. You was talking about how everybody comes to the podcast. Oh, you're making money, dude. I didn't even make $1 off of Barbell Voodoo for 6 years.
Yeah.
Not $1.
Yeah.
But I knew. I was like, man, if I just keep doing these things,
Mm-hmm.
if I just keep doing these things, it's going to get there.
Yes.
And it gets there.
Yeah.
Well, and then
You
it's
know.
just like at the point I sent you all the texts. I'm like, dude, I've got 125 episodes. I've got all these people I've met that I've been planting the roots. You know, and at the end of the day, the roots are the most important part of it. You know, I can't. And that before I just like this. It was like a seed, but it just started planting right, and then I fell over. But now here we are. These roots are going deep, and now I'm able to lean into connections and people I've met, and it's just really cool. And I'm very grateful for you guys, y'all's confidence in me. You know, so it's a boost for sure. And y'all's insight here. I mean, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I couldn't thank you enough.
Well, it's. I wish you a bunch of success, man, and I'm excited to see what you do and how you grow. And we're always here for you. I know we've both taken turns doing phone calls with you, so I'm excited to see what you can do. So look into that camera and tell people how they can get a hold of you, or tell them about your podcast, whatever you want to say into that camera.
God, I had something earlier that I wanted to say, and then it just like it went ADHD, you know.
Yeah.
You're sitting in a room with all the ADHD right now.
So you can find me on YouTube, Spotify, all the things at the Relentless Pursuit Podcast. As you've gathered, it's a podcast about storytelling. Powerful stuff, definitely worth looking into. If you want to be a guest or anything else, if you want to connect, hit me up at relentlesspursuitlifestyle@gmail.com. And yeah, that's like the main points.
It's perfect.
That's it. That's good.
Thank you guys.
Everybody, we appreciate you tuning in on this episode. Please go follow Joe and and enjoy that podcast. If you thought this one was great, you're in for a real treat when you tune in.
He's way better than we are, for sure.
100%.
Way better.
We just talk about boring business stuff. We've got a whiteboard. So there's that. We always appreciate your viewership. Please like and subscribe, share this podcast. And if you want to sit in the seat like Joe did today, and we will help workshop your brand or business, please holler at us. You can DM us on Instagram or info@NashvilleFitMagazine.com. Roy, would you like to say anything?
No, everybody have a great, I was going to say weekend. Who knows when the people listen to this?
Sure.
But you can buy your tickets to the
There it
Music
is.
City Fit Expo at the Nashville
Yeah.
Fairgrounds, May 30th, 31st. Come out and meet Brian Shaw, Jay Cutler, maybe Dana Lynn Bailey if things go the way they weren't to.
Joe Adams.
Joe Adams will be out there.
You got to meet Joe if you hadn't heard.
Sweet pea.
Mad about the expo. Come. If you find Joe, you get a free ham sandwich from the concession stand.
Yes.
So come out to the Music City Fit Expo, May 30th, 31st. Tickets on sale now. VIP tickets are still remaining.
There you go.
don't even-
You know, in that vein, thank you to NutriShop, Provita, and Elument Health for your sponsorship, guys. We will catch you on the next one.